let's talk. So someone asked me, not too long ago in fact, how much time should they put into the SCA? And I'm here to tell you, that's an interesting question. It's a really interesting question. Because the SCA it's an interesting creature, really. Let me give you an example. If you were to join the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts, there really are some bookends to how much time you can put into that organization. There's a minimum number of meetings you really should functionally make in a month's time in order to be current with the other members, usually once a week. And there really are a certain number of camping trips that you probably should make to get the merit badges, to get the education that the overall troop or pack is going for. But at the same time, there's only so much you can do. You can't attend more meetings than they give, and you can't go to more camping trips, really, not as a scout, than they have. If you want to do something on your own, that's fine, but that's separate from scouting. The scouts, you can go into it and kind of establish early on, for Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, either or, how much time out of your life is really needed to progress in that organization. Same is true with churches, for example. Suppose you want to join the choir. Well, you're going to have to make, anytime they have a choir, so that's going to be probably once or twice on Sunday, and if there's a Wednesday service, you'll be attending Wednesday, and whenever choir practices. So, it adds up a couple hours a week. And most obligations are like that. And they are, in fact, some sort of obligation. Whether or not you have the option to bow out is immaterial to the question of if you want to be a productive member of any of these organizations. There really are benchmarks for how much and how little you can participate before your presence it's not productive. You're not accomplishing anything by being there. The SCA it's a whole different animal. It's not like that. Now, on the one end, we talked about minimums. The SCA doesn't have any minimums. And I'm serious. Think this over. Some of you might say, well, you need to attend at least the populace meeting each month. That's just the baseline. I don't know about you guys, but if you look at social media, I can functionally skip a populace meeting and hear and see everything that was talked about either on the recording or just follow all the posts afterward. I can still be a productive part of those conversations. I can, if there's talk of we want to host an event, I probably will know most of what was talked about at that meeting by email and social media posts. And if you doubt that, just go take a look at 2020 and 2021 and how much information we started pouring into social media. I know people who played SCA who were functional members of the group, but they weren't hitting any of the traditional benchmarks that I had come of age expecting before 2020, before COVID, before the lockdown, before the suspension of in-person activities and events. The minimum participation level, it's so hard to define because of social media, because of how integrated social media is into most lives. And I'm not just talking about Facebook. We've moved so far past that. Between any of the interactive points, anything where information can be exchanged, not just broadcast, but commented on, Discord, Facebook, Twitter, obviously different strengths and weaknesses on each one, but all of those are valid platforms. And if if the local group is active on those platforms, you don't need to attend a populist meeting. You don't technically need to do anything in order to know what's going on and participate in conversations. And there was a point in time where knowing what's going on and participating in conversations was kind of the benchmark to see if you were a active player. And now it's impossible to describe. It's impossible to delineate what do you need to do to be an active player on the minimum, because nowadays we can pick up our smartphones and we can contribute as much to a conversation in a couple of Facebook posts as we used to do as part of a 2-hour populist meeting. So the minimum is kind of out of the water. There's no minimum to be SCA. If you want to set a benchmark as being a member, okay, fine, pay the money and get your membership. But there's so many activities that we do that don't require membership cards, that's not even a fair number. And what about the other end? What about the capstone? When can you do too much? As far as the SCA is concerned, that number doesn't exist. Right now, as of this minute, I have available to me an SCA activity, either online or in person, every day of the week from now until 4 weeks from now. If I wanted to, and a lot of them, yes, are online, but some of them are in person. I could attend an SCA activity or class or meeting or discussion group or book club or social gathering every night for the next 2+ weeks. And in just a few weeks is the Norman Medieval Fair, which I will be assisting in. So that's a full day commitment Saturday, and we're doing a full day commitment on Sunday. And we won't be able to make it Friday night, but I've got something SCA going Friday night. So in terms of how much time you can put in SCA, the bottom line is that the upper limit is how many hours a day are you awake? I'm serious. I know people that put that much time. I know retired individuals who most of their daytime activities are SCA related. It's their hobby. I mean, we all talk about that's not a slight. That's not a set note on someone. That's we all talk about the retired person who takes up gardening, or the guy who after he retires goes to work on his car or whatever. We all are expected to get hobbies when we don't have a job to take up our time for our own mental health. For a lot of people, that's the SCA. Kind of a side note to that, if you've ever been in court and you've heard the name Emma Farewell, I would say, I think it is safe to say that at least right now, the majority of scrolls being circulated in Kingdom of all the people who've contributed painted scrolls, painted charters to the Kingdom to give out, she is by far and wide the most prolific. She turns in the most scrolls, and her work is impeccable. I've seen a number of her scrolls, and they are gorgeous, so there's no sacrificing quality in the name of quantity with her. But my understanding is that she's retired, so she has the opportunity to devote a lot of her time to the SCA. The bottom line is that I could never devote that much time to the SCA right now. I would lose my job. Like, seriously, I have to spend my 8 hours a day doing my job, or I don't pay the bills. So if you look at other people's examples, it's possible to find people who factually can do more than you simply because they have the time that you don't. A lot of us have jobs. Some of us have jobs that are unconventional enough that they give us spurts of time where we can do stuff long term, then we have to stop and go do our job long term. But you get the idea. So what am I trying to say with all this? That's a really long, convoluted way of saying there are not bookends. There's not a minimum, and there's not a maximum. And that wheels back to the question of how much time should I put into the SCA? And I don't know. I don't have an answer for you, but I have an equation I'd like you to process on your own. There's no right or wrong answer. And that's number one, how much time do you want to spend doing SCA stuff? And it doesn't have to be all available time, trust me. There are plenty of times that I love the SCA, I love its people, I need space. I go turn on my computer and I video game, or I go out for a walk, or I go out to the shop and work on something that's not hand tool woodworking. You're okay saying, I don't want to do SCA right now. So ask yourself, how much SCA in a day or a week or a month brings you happiness? How much lets you enjoy what you're doing? Just consider that number. And that number can change. You don't need to lock yourself in, but just ask yourself, are you able to enjoy the SCA on 5 hours a week? Are you able to enjoy the SCA on 10 hours a week? Are you able to enjoy the SCA on 1 hour a week? Ask yourself. Now, the other end, how much time can you give the SCA before it starts hurting you? Now, hurting you, you ask, how can it do that? Well, like anything, too much can be dangerous. How much time can you give before it starts impacting your ability to pay your bills? Not joking. There are people who have run themselves that ragged and burned that much time that they suddenly lose their jobs. It's sad, it's horrible, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but it's happened. It's possible to burn out on anything, SCA especially. How much time can you put into a subject before your brain starts to need a break? How much time can you force yourself into a subject before you start doing damage to your mental health? Ask yourself that. Budget that into your answer. Can you do 15 hours a week on top of your regular life, on top of your job? Can you do 15 spare hours a week on something, on a project, on an activity, on whatever, and still be mentally healthy? Are you still happy at the end of the week? Are you still in a good mental state? That's a valid question. You need to ask that before you plow in. How much resources do you have to give to the SCA? When I started, I was broke. I was a college student. I was flat broke. I didn't have money. I didn't have pretty much anything. My first garb was done on barter. I traded some labor for a shirt, and my first helmet, the guy wanted a leather riding cloak. So I got my mom to make my Christmas gift that year leather, because I knew I could use my dad's leather tools when I went home for Christmas to make the leather riding cloak. And I traded that leather riding cloak for my helmet. That's how it worked. I didn't have the money for it. Today, if I needed something that expensive, I could write a check for it, but I couldn't at the time. How much resources do you have? Can you afford the gas to go to an event every weekend? Can you afford site fee to do an event every other weekend? That adds up. Gas and site for some central events for me, that's $100 sometimes if you could factor in gas going down and coming back up, and site, which is usually $12, $15 sometimes. That's not counting food. That's not counting feast. That's not counting lunch, which usually isn't provided. It's not counting the meals while I'm driving down or the meals while I'm driving back. That could easily, and then of course you go out to eat with friends afterward. That's a given. If it's a day event, oh my God, we're going out. I'm grabbing some friends. We're going out to eat somewhere. That's just a rule with me personally. Even on a cheap event, relatively close, like I'm only going to the central region. I'm not heading all the way down to Austin. That could easily be a $200, $250 weekend. Which, if I budget it, I can do it. I couldn't do that every week. I couldn't do that more than once a month, and even that would be pushing it with me now with my current paycheck. You need to ask yourself, how much resources can you put into it? And really, the last thing you need to do is you need to ask yourself, what do you want to accomplish? Now, yes, I will freely admit, people who are more active, who put more time into the SCA, who have that ability, will receive recognition, generally speaking, will receive recognition and advance up the ranks of their chosen path, if they have one, faster than someone who is less active. That is the flat fact. And whether you call it fair or not, the bottom line is that the SCA, the modern SCA, is a meritocracy, and the merit is that they are doing the job. Whether they are hitting the tournaments, they are attending fighter practices, they are doing the work days, they are entering the ANS competitions, they are teaching the classes, whatever. Someone who is doing more will advance more than someone who is not. Now, is that a criticism of someone who is doing less? No, it's not. That person who is doing less, who I've been in that situation multiple times in my SCA career, is probably doing less because their energy is needed somewhere else outside the SCA. Maybe they're a new parent. Maybe they're dealing with health issues. Maybe they're trying to sell their house. I don't know. I mean, there's a million possibilities. And none of those should be held against you. None of those, I almost want to guarantee they are not going to be held against you. If life happens, the one safeguard to keep your reputation alive is just tell people, hey, life's caught up with me. I can't make it. Stay in touch with your friends, but take care of life. Take care of life. Don't sacrifice life to try and keep the SCA alive, because then both crash and burn. So there's no bookends. You have the limitation of how much resource do you have to give, how much bodily resource do you have to give, and then you have, yes, there is that little bit of carrot and stick aspect of the more I do, the faster I'll get recognized. Nominally, but yes, that's fair. Factor those in, and the last thing I want to tell you, and this is a bit of philosophy. Getting that next award, getting that title, winning that competition, don't get monofocused. Don't let yourself lock in on that is my objective, and all things revolve around that. Because if there's one thing I can tell you about the SCA, after a quarter century of playing, after watching players rise to the ranks and become grants and peers, after watching some amazing individuals come out of obscurity to become dynamic and powerful leaders in the SCA, I can tell you wholeheartedly that the majority of the SCA experience is not that moment in court when you're receiving the award, but it is the journey getting there. Don't plot your course to say, how can I get this award? How can I get this office? Don't sit there and say, I want that end goal. Point your nose toward it and say, what path do I have to follow? What do I have to learn to go in that direction? And then take that adventure. That more than anything else is how you regulate. That's how you guide yourself in how much SCA an officer. And then ask yourself, how much time can I put into this? And ask yourself, how much is too much time? How much time do I need for mental health? How much money do I need to save? How much can I reasonably not do right now? Plot it out. Talk to a mentor superior. Talk to a senior member. Talk to your friends. Talk to your social circle. Plot out. Decide. Are we going to an event together? Are we splitting cost? Are we eating in? Are we bringing food and cooking on site? Are we packing an ice chest with cold cuts and boxed drinks? What can you do? What do you want to do? And then when do you have to cut yourself off because you don't have the resources to do this without hurting yourself? And then focus that energy. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And if you don't know, that's okay. That is so okay. Just go experience all the things. Try on armor. Go to the archery range. Try ANS. Just do everything until something clicks. And maybe you're one of those 1 in 100 where nothing clicks. Next, by the way, if nothing clicks, go try heraldry. Then see if nothing clicks. We'd be surprised how many people stop at heraldry and go, I found my people. But suppose nothing clicks, and that's okay. Are you having fun? If you are, great, then keep doing what you're doing. Trust me, we'll find a niche for you. But the takeaway from this is don't burn yourself out, and don't feel like there's a minimum. Don't commit 100% and then crash and burn because you don't have any energy left. And don't give up entirely because you can't give 100%. There is so much in between. If all you can make is one ANS meeting every other month, I'll see you there. And it'll be good to see you. So as you probably imagine, there's no simple answer for this. This is strictly my philosophy on it. I'm hoping to have raised more questions than answers here, but I want to get your brains ticking. I want to get the gears turning on this because it is such an important topic. A lot of new players and how they're going to balance their SCA careers. So, till next time, I will see you at your next event, hopefully. Until then, goodbye and God bless.